The last fleet of humanity moved slowly through empty space. The ships traveled in a loose line, their lights dimmed to save power. The stars around them were quiet and cold. No signals came from nearby worlds. No friendly voices answered their calls. This fleet was all that remained of the human race. At the center of the fleet flew the Battlestar Galactica. It was old, marked by time and battle, but it still held together. Its armor showed scars from past fights, and many systems worked only because engineers refused to let them fail. The ship was not beautiful, but it was strong in its own way. Captain Daniel Moore stood on the command deck. He kept his hands behind his back and looked at the wide screen in front of him. The screen showed stars drifting past, slow and distant. He had seen this view many times, yet it never felt comforting. Space felt larger every day and the fleet felt smaller. Daniel Moore was a calm man, but his face showed the weight he carried. He knew every ship by name. He knew how many people lived on each one. He also knew how little food and fuel they had left. Each day, reports reminded him that time was running out. Around him, the crew worked quietly. No one laughed. No one spoke unless needed. They had learned to save energy not only in machines but in themselves. Still, they did their jobs with care. They believed that as long as they worked, there was still a reason to hope. Lieutenant Mark Hill checked navigation data again and again. The route ahead was uncertain. Most star charts were useless now. Many systems had been lost or destroyed. Every jump through space was a risk. One mistake could scatter the fleet forever. On a lower deck, engineer Emma Lewis wiped grease from her hands. She had not slept much in days. A power relay kept failing and she refused to leave it unfixed. She spoke softly to the machine as she worked, as if it could hear her. Keeping the ship alive felt personal to her. In the medical bay, Dr. Anna Brooks checked on patients who never fully healed. Some wounds were old, both in body and in mind. She did what she could with limited tools. Sometimes all she could offer was a quiet voice and reassurance. Even that mattered. The fleet moved on, unaware that they were being watched. Without warning, alarms echoed across the Galactica. Red lights flashed. The calm silence broke into sharp sound and motion. Crew members looked up in shock, then moved fast to their stations. Contact detected, a voice called out. Multiple signatures. Captain Moore stepped forward. His eyes narrowed as shapes appeared on the screen. Dark, smooth ships slid into view, their forms unlike any human design. They moved with perfect control as if space itself welcomed them. The alien fleet did not rush. They did not fire. They simply appeared and held position, surrounding the human ships with ease. Their silence was more frightening than noise. Mark Hill spoke quietly. They matched our jump. That shouldn't be possible. Emma Lewis felt a chill run through her. Machines like that should not exist, not with what humans understood. Yet there they were. Captain Moore raised a hand. No sudden moves, he said. His voice was steady even if his heart was not. Open channels. All of them. Signals were sent, one after another. Words, numbers, simple signs of peace. No reply came back. The alien ships remained still, calm and confident. On the command deck, fear tried to creep in. Some crew members clenched their fists. Others held their breath. Everyone understood what this meant. The aliens were strong. They had followed humanity across the stars. They could end this now if they wished. But they did not. Instead, one alien ship moved closer. It stopped just outside weapon range. Its surface shimmered softly like light on water. It felt as if it was studying the humans, measuring them. Captain Moore straightened his posture. All ships, he said, speaking to the entire fleet, hold formation. Power down weapons but keep shields ready. This choice was not easy. It showed weakness but also trust. Humanity could not win a direct fight. Every officer knew this. Their ships were fewer, slower and damaged. A battle would mean the end. Yet surrender was not an option either. Across the fleet, people watched the alien ships from windows and screens. Families held each other. Children were pulled close. There were no screams, no panic. Just a heavy silence and shared understanding. Dr. Brooks paused her work and looked up as the ship hummed differently. She whispered a short prayer, not to any god in particular, but to the idea that survival still mattered. Emma Lewis returned to her station. She checked energy flow and backup systems. If the aliens attacked, the Galactica needed every bit of power it could get. She worked faster, her hands steady despite the fear. Captain Moore watched the alien ship again. He realized something important. The aliens had not attacked because they wanted something else. They wanted to see how humans would respond. "We stay together," he said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. The fleet did exactly that. No ship tried to flee. No one broke formation. They stayed close, weak alone but stronger together. Minutes passed. Then more. Time stretched thin. Finally, the alien ship sent a signal. Not words but images. Simple shapes. Patterns. A message that was not meant to be friendly or cruel. It was a statement of fact. They were stronger. Captain Moore understood. He did not lower his head. He did not argue. He simply stood his ground. Message received, he said. No reply. The aliens held position a moment longer, then slowly pulled back. They did not leave. They only waited. Humanity's last fleet continued forward, surrounded by unknown power. Supplies were low. Hope was thin. But something else was present now. Resolve. They could not win by strength alone. They knew that. But as long as they stayed together, as long as they refused to fall apart, their story was not over. And the stars watched as the last light of humanity moved on. The alien ships tightened their circle around the human fleet. They moved with smooth control, never crashing or drifting. Their formation changed again and again like a quiet test. Human sensors struggled to track them. Signals jumped and faded. Screens filled with warning signs. Captain Daniel Moore stood still on the command deck of the Battlestar Galactica. He watched as small flashes appeared near the edge of the fleet. The aliens had begun to test human defenses. Not full attacks but light strikes. Careful strikes. Energy beams touched the shields of the outer ships. The shields flared bright, then dimmed. One transport ship shook hard. People inside were thrown to the floor. Alarms sounded, but the ship stayed intact. Damage report, Moore said. Minor hull damage, an officer replied. Shields holding. Power strain increasing. Moore nodded. Keep formation. Across the fleet, human ships stayed close. No one broke away. Every captain understood the danger of being alone. The aliens wanted to see panic. They wanted to see weakness. They did not get it. In a launch bay, pilot James Carter pulled on his helmet. His fighter was old, patched many times, but it still worked. He ran his hand along the side of the cockpit, a small habit before every flight. Ready when you are, he said into the comm. Power levels are unstable, Emma Lewis replied from engineering. But I've rerouted systems. You'll have thrust and weapons. Just don't push too hard. James smiled, though she could not see it. I'll be gentle. The launch bay doors opened. Space rushed in, dark and endless. James's fighter shot forward, followed by several others. They spread out, not to attack but to protect. Their job was to distract, to defend, to show presence. Alien drones moved toward them. Small, fast, and silent. James's screen lit up with targets. His hands moved smoothly, trained by years of flying with little rest and less safety. He fired short bursts, careful not to waste power. One drone spun away, disabled but not destroyed. They're probing, James said. Testing reaction time. Emma listened closely. She watched power lines on her screen. Every weapon fired pulled energy from life support, from engines, from shields. It was a balance that could break at any moment. I'm adjusting flow, she said. Keep them busy. On the Galactica, crew members moved fast but stayed calm. Damage teams sealed small breaches. Medics helped the injured. No one shouted unless needed. Fear was there, heavy in the air, but discipline was stronger. Dr. Anna Brooks helped a young crew member with a bleeding arm. The ship shook again as another alien strike hit nearby. We're still here, Anna said softly. Breathe. The crew member nodded, gripping her hand. Outside, the fight grew more intense. Alien beams struck human shields again and again. Some shields failed. Hulls were burned. One small ship lost engines and drifted. Without orders, two nearby ships moved closer, sharing power and pulling it back into formation. James saw this from his cockpit. They're sticking together, he said quietly. He rolled his fighter hard as a drone passed close. His warning system screamed. He shut it off. Noise did not help now. He fired again, forcing the drone to retreat. It did not chase him. Instead, it stopped and hovered as if thinking. They're learning, James said. So are we, Emma replied. In engineering, Emma wiped sweat from her face. A console sparked. She slapped a patch over exposed wires and kept working. Her hands hurt, but she ignored it. As long as fighters flew, they had a chance. The aliens changed tactics. Instead of hitting shields, they targeted sensors. Screens went dark across the fleet. Navigation data flickered. Mark Hill fought to restore readings. They're blinding us, he said. Captain Moore watched the darkness spread across the screen. Switch to manual, he said. Old systems. Some crew members smiled slightly. The old systems were slow, but they were simple. They did not rely on complex signals. They relied on people. Human ships adjusted by sight and short-range scans. They stayed close enough to see each other, to feel each other through shared vibration and light. Alien ships paused again. One of them moved closer to the Galactica, closer than before. It fired a focused beam. The Galactica's shield flared bright white, then held. The ship shook hard. Panels fell. People were thrown against walls. Shields at 60%, someone called. Captain Moore gripped the railing. Hold. James turned his fighter toward the alien ship. He knew his weapons could not break it. That was not the point. He fired anyway, hitting the same spot again and again. Other pilots joined him. Small human fighters swarmed the large alien ship like insects. Not dangerous but annoying. Distracting. The alien ship pulled back slightly. Emma saw the change in energy patterns. James, she said, that worked. They adjusted power. James laughed once, short and sharp. Guess they don't like being bothered. The fight continued for a long time. Minutes felt like hours. Human ships took damage. Some fighters were lost. Some pilots did not return. But the fleet did not break. No ship ran. No signal begged for mercy. No captain surrendered. Finally, the alien attack slowed. The drones pulled back. The beams stopped. The alien fleet held position, quiet once more. Inside the Galactica, people waited. Breathing slowed. Hands shook, then steadied. Captain Moore looked around the command deck. Faces were tired, scared, but alive. They tested us, he said. And we're still here. James landed his fighter with care. As the cockpit opened, he sat still for a moment, letting the silence sink in. Emma met him in the bay. You made it, she said. So did the ship, he replied. They looked around at the damaged fighters, the tired crew, the flashing warning lights. Far away the alien fleet watched. They had expected panic. They had expected flight. Instead they saw something else. Humans did not flee easily. The quiet after the clash felt heavier than the fight itself. Space around the fleet was filled with drifting metal and fading lights. Some human ships no longer moved. Their signals were gone, replaced by silence that no one wanted to accept. On the command deck of the Battlestar Galactica, screens showed damage reports one after another. Systems failed across the fleet. Engines ran hot. Shields were weak. Power reserves were low. Every number told the same story. The cost had been high. Captain Daniel Moore stood without speaking for a long moment. He looked at the empty spaces where ships had once been. Each space meant lives, families, friends, years of struggle ending in seconds. Confirm losses, he said at last. The answer came slowly. 3 support ships destroyed. 1 escort lost. Several others badly damaged. Many injured. Some missing. No one cried out. No one argued. The crew accepted the truth in silence. On one of the damaged ships, Officer Michael Reed moved through dark corridors filled with smoke. Emergency lights flickered red. The ship had lost main power, and only backup systems kept the air thin but breathable. Follow me, Michael said, keeping his voice calm. He guided a group of survivors toward an escape hatch. Some walked on their own. Others leaned on him. One child clutched his sleeve and refused to let go. A low groan shook the ship. Metal bent somewhere deep inside. We don't have much time, Michael said gently. But we'll make it. He helped them into a rescue shuttle. He checked each seat, each strap, even as alarms screamed around them. Only when everyone was secure did he step inside himself. The shuttle launched just as the ship behind them went dark. Michael closed his eyes for a second. Then he opened them and focused forward. There was no room for regret now. Back on the Galactica, Dr. Anna Brooks worked without pause. The medical bay was full. Too full. Beds lined the walls. Some injured lay on the floor, wrapped in blankets. She moved from one person to the next. A burned arm. A broken leg. Fear. Exhaustion. You're safe now, she said again and again, even when she was not sure it was true. Her voice stayed steady because people needed it. One patient grabbed her hand. Did we lose? He asked. Anna shook her head slowly. No, she said. We're still here. That was enough. In engineering, Emma Lewis sat against a wall for a moment, breathing hard. Her hands shook from hours of work. Systems had failed faster than she could fix them. She had rerouted power so many times that the ship barely followed normal rules anymore. Still it flew. She pushed herself up and went back to her console. Rest could wait. Across the fleet, crews worked in the same way. They patched hulls with scrap metal. They shut down non-essential systems. They shared fuel. They shared food. No one asked if it was fair. Survival was the only measure that mattered. The alien fleet remained nearby, watching. They did not attack. They did not help. They waited. Captain Moore knew what that meant. The aliens were deciding. Watching how humans handled loss. He turned to the comm officer. Open fleet channel. The signal spread across every remaining ship. Faces appeared on screens. Some were injured. Some were dirty and tired. Some looked close to breaking. Captain Moore stood tall. "We have lost ships," he said. "We have lost people. There is no way to soften that truth." He paused, letting the words settle. "But we are still here." He looked directly into the camera. "The enemy believes loss will stop us. That fear will make us turn back or fall apart. They think survival is only about strength." He shook his head. "We know better. People listen closely now. We fight because we protect each other. We move forward because stopping means the end. We carry those we lost with us, not as weight but as reason." Michael Reed listened from the rescue shuttle dock. He thought of the ship that was gone. Of the empty seats. His jaw tightened. In the medical bay, Anna paused her work to listen. She felt tears rise, but she did not let them fall. Captain Moore continued. "We do not run. We do not give in. Not because we are fearless, but because we choose to stand together." Silence followed. Then one by one, captains acknowledged the message. Simple replies. "Understood. We're with you." "Still flying." Emma smiled faintly at her screen. James Carter sat in his fighter, helmet off, listening. He had lost friends in the clash. He felt the pain sharp and real. But the words reached him anyway. "Ready when needed," he said quietly. The fleet began to move again. Slowly. Carefully. Damaged ships were placed in the center. Stronger ones took the edges. The Galactica led the way, steady despite its wounds. The aliens shifted position, matching the movement. Still watching. Still silent. Captain Moore knew more battles would come. More loss. More hard choices. But the fleet had made its decision. Forward. Not because the path was safe, but because stopping meant everything would end. As the stars drifted past once more, humanity's last fleet moved on, carrying grief, resolve, and a quiet promise to those left behind. They would endure. The alien fleet stayed close, but something had changed. Their movements were slower now, less certain. They watched the human ships with care, as if trying to understand them. The humans felt it too. The space around them no longer felt like a trap. Felt like a test. Inside the Battlestar Galactica, engineer Emma Lewis stared at a strange piece of metal resting on a work table. It had been pulled from a damaged alien drone during the last clash. The surface was smooth, warm to the touch, and faint lines of light moved under it like slow rivers. "It shouldn't still be active," one engineer said. Emma nodded. "That's why it interests me." The object did not match any human design. There were no clear controls, no wires, no buttons. Yet it reacted to power, to movement, even to sound. Emma had spent hours watching how it behaved, writing notes, making guesses. She did not fully understand it, but she understood enough. Emma gathered a small team. "We're not going to copy it," she said. "We're going to annoy it." The plan was simple and dangerous. They would connect the alien device to a human signal array, not to control it but to confuse it. The alien tech was designed to read patterns. Humans would feed it broken ones. Captain Daniel Moore listened as Emma explained. He did not interrupt. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "You're saying this could fail completely?" he said. "Yes," Emma replied. "Or it could work just enough." Moore nodded. "Just enough is all we've ever had." The device was moved to a sealed chamber. Power lines were rerouted. Old human systems were connected to it, systems that worked on outdated logic and imperfect timing. Emma smiled faintly. "Aliens like clean math," she said. "Humans don't." As the fleet drifted forward, the alien command ship moved closer again. It was larger than the others, smoother, brighter. It sat at the center of the alien formation like a calm mind directing many thoughts. "Now," Emma said. The device activated. At first nothing happened. Then human sensors lit up. Alien signals flickered. The command ship paused, just slightly but enough to notice. Inside the alien fleet, communication patterns broke and reformed. Commands repeated. Movements slowed. "What did you do?" Mark Hill asked from navigation. Emma watched her screen. "We made noise," she said. "The kind they don't expect." The humans sent bursts of mixed signals. Old radio waves. New digital codes. Random delays. Human mistakes turned into weapons. The alien command ship shifted position again. A wave of drones launched, then stopped. Another wave followed a second later, out of sync. James Carter watched from his fighter. "They're hesitating," he said. "That's new." Captain Moore raised his hand. "All ships adjust movement. Not uniform. Random spacing." The fleet obeyed. Ships moved slightly off pattern. Speeds changed by small amounts. Formation loosened, then tightened again. The alien fleet struggled to respond. Their ships were fast, precise, and powerful. But they expected order. They expected clear cause and effect. Humans did not give them that. Emma adjusted the device again. It hummed louder now, the light beneath its surface pulsing unevenly. Sparks jumped across connectors. "It won't last," she warned. "It doesn't have to," Moore replied. The alien command ship sent out a strong signal. Human screens shook. Some systems went dark. But the confusion remained. Dr. Anna Brooks felt the ship shudder and held onto a railing. She heard distant alarms but fewer screams than before. That alone felt like progress. Michael Reed watched from a security station. He saw alien drones drift off course, colliding softly instead of striking targets. Not failure. Confusion. The humans took advantage. Fighters moved in short bursts, then pulled back. Weapons fired not to destroy but to distract. Human ships slipped through gaps that should not have existed. James Carter flew close to the alien command ship. His fighter shook violently as alien systems tried to lock onto him, then lost him again. "They can't track us," he said, surprised. "They're trying to predict," Emma replied. "And we keep changing the question." The alien command ship sent another signal. This one was different. Slower. Broader. Emma froze. "They're adapting." The device on the table began to crack. Lines of light turned sharp and uneven. "We're running out of time," she said. Captain Moore made a choice. "Push everything through. Now." Emma did it. She opened all channels. All noise. All human chaos. The device overloaded. A burst of energy rippled through space. Not an explosion but a wave. Human systems flickered, then stabilized. Alien systems did not. The alien command ship drifted. Its perfect control broke. For the first time it looked unsure. Then, slowly the alien fleet pulled back. Not retreating. Not fleeing. Reconsidering. Silence returned. Inside the Galactica, Emma slumped into a chair. The device on the table was dead, its light gone. "It's done," she said. Moore nodded. "So are they. For now." Across the fleet, people felt it. The pressure eased. The fear loosened its grip. James landed his fighter and let out a long breath. "We didn't beat them," he said to Emma later. "No," she replied. "We surprised them." Far away, the alien command ship analyzed the encounter. Humans were not strong. Their technology was crude. Their systems were damaged. But they learned fast. They adapted without rules. They did not follow simple patterns. And that made them dangerous. The alien fleet held distance as the human ships moved on, carrying with them the quiet knowledge that the tide at last had begun to turn. The alien fleet no longer pressed close. Their ships moved back little by little, keeping distance instead of tightening the circle. The human fleet felt the change at once. Sensors showed more empty space between them and the enemy. The silence felt different now. Not threatening. Thoughtful. Inside the alien command ship, data flowed through cold systems. Images of the battle repeated again and again. Human ships holding formation. Fighters changing patterns. Signals that made no sense. Damage that should have ended them, yet did not. The aliens recorded everything. They did not record anger. They did not record victory or defeat. They recorded a warning. Humans were weak in strength. Their ships were damaged. Their numbers were small. But they did not break. They adapted. They endured. That made them dangerous in a way raw power was not. On the Battlestar Galactica, Captain Daniel Moore watched the alien fleet retreat on the main screen. He did not celebrate. He did not relax. He waited until the distance grew large enough to matter. "Status," he said. "Alien ships are pulling back," Mark Hill replied. "No weapons charging. No pursuit." Moore nodded slowly. "They're letting us go." No cheers filled the command deck. Only quiet relief. People leaned back in their seats. Some closed their eyes. Others stared at the screen, afraid to believe it. Emma Lewis sat on the floor of engineering, her back against the console. Her hands were bandaged. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. The alien device lay silent nearby, cracked and useless. She looked at it once more, then turned away. "It bought us time," she whispered. That was enough. In the medical bay, Dr. Anna Brooks finally sat down. She had not rested in what felt like forever. Around her, injured crew members slept or rested quietly. Machines beeped softly. For the first time in days, no new alarms sounded. She allowed herself a small smile. Michael Reed walked through the docking bay where rescued survivors waited. Some ships were gone forever, but their people lived. They shared food, blankets, and quiet words. Loss hung in the air, but so did something else. Survival. James Carter stood beside his fighter, running a hand over the scorched hull. It would need repairs. So would he. He thought of the pilots who had not returned. He felt the ache deep in his chest. But he was still here. Across the fleet, similar moments happened. People counted who was left. They remembered who was gone. They did not look away from the pain, but they did not stop moving either. Captain Moore opened the fleet channel one last time. Today we live, he said simply. That is not luck. That is choice. Faces appeared on screens again. Tired. Scarred. Listening. We were tested, Moore continued. Not just by an enemy but by loss, fear, and exhaustion. We did not pass because we are strong. We passed because we stayed together. No speeches followed. No loud replies. Just quiet understanding. The alien fleet continued to withdraw, their formation widening until they were little more than distant shapes. Before they vanished, a final signal was sent. Not to humans but inward to their own records. A note was added. Do not underestimate them. The Battlestar Galactica powered up its jump drive. The sound echoed through the ship, deep and familiar. Engineers checked readings. Navigators locked coordinates. This jump would take them farther away than before. A risk. But staying was no longer an option. All ships ready, Mark Hill said. Captain Moore took one last look at the stars around them. At the empty spaces where ships once flew. At the distant enemy that had chosen not to finish the fight. Jump, he said. Space folded. Light stretched and vanished. In a blink, the fleet was gone. They emerged far away, into quiet darkness filled with unfamiliar stars. No alien ships followed. No weapons locked on. Only silence and open space. The fleet regrouped slowly. Damaged ships reported in. Life support stabilized. People began the long work of repair and recovery. Humanity had survived again. Not because they were the strongest. Not because they were the smartest. But because they endured when logic said they should fail. Because they shared what little they had. Because they refused to give up on each other. Captain Moore stood alone for a moment on the command deck. He allowed himself a breath. Just one. Somewhere out there, the aliens would remember this day. They would warn others. They would think twice before facing humans again. And the last fleet moved on, carrying scars, hope, and a quiet truth written into the stars. Humanity does not win by force alone. Humanity survives.